Okay, so you sent over a ton of info on AI in the workplace.
Yeah.
And we're going to zero in on this document, managing employee and stakeholder concerns around AI adoption.
Right.
People are saying a lot about AI, but there's definitely some anxiety there too. So
Okay.
let's dive in. What's your take on this document?
I was really interested in how it just jumps right into, the anxieties around AI.
Hmm.
It kind of acknowledges the fear right up front,
It does.
which is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's a new article about AI taking everyone's jobs.
Yeah,
Is that something you saw too?
definitely. The document spends a lot of time on job displacement, which it's a valid concern.
Right.
But it stresses how important it is to deal with those fears directly,
Okay.
not just ignore them.
So like trying to just pretend it's not happening, that's not going to work.
Right. The document actually warns about what can happen if you ignore these anxieties.
Mm.
People resist, morale goes down, and in the end, you just can't make AI work in that organization.
So basically you need to be upfront and communicate.
Yeah.
But it's not all about jobs though, right? This document, it seems like it's saying AI is making people anxious in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like data privacy is a big one.
Yeah.
AI systems use so much data
Yeah.
that, of course, people are worried about how their information is being used and protected.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like that saying, if you don't know what the product is, you're the product.
Yeah.
Like people are starting to think, is it my data that's making this AI thing go?
Yeah, and then there's algorithmic bias. That's the risk that the systems will have the same biases that are already in society.
So it could make things even less equal if we aren't careful.
Exactly. And it's not just the data. It's also about who is actually creating these algorithms,
Uh-huh.
what biases they might have without even realizing it. The document reminds us that fixing algorithmic bias isn't just a technology problem. It's a social and ethical one, too.
So it's easy to get bogged down in all this worry about AI.
Right.
But this document doesn't just point out problems, it actually offers some real solutions.
Yeah.
What were some of the most useful pieces of advice for, people in charge leaders?
I think the big one is how much it emphasizes communication.
Yeah.
And not just like a quick announcement, but really talking to employees, being honest, and keeping the conversation going.
So no more of these like company-wide emails that just say, hey, AI is here, get used to it.
No, not at all. The document says it's really important to explain why AI is being used.
Okay.
Like, how can it actually help employees, not just what it is?
So less about what it is, more about what it can do for us.
Exactly. And a big part of that is addressing those fears about jobs going away. The document talks about investing in programs to help people learn new skills, upgrade their existing skills.
Right, so you're kind of preparing your employees for this new world, not just leaving them behind.
Exactly. And it's not just about, learning to code or becoming a data scientist or something.
Right.
It's about understanding how to actually work with AI,
Okay.
using its strengths along with your own.
They use this phrase, human AI collaboration, which sounds a lot less scary than robots taking over, right?
Absolutely. The document really focuses on how the best AI is when humans and AI work together, each doing what they're good at. Humans are creative, they think critically, they understand emotions.
Yeah.
AI can work with huge amounts of data, do those repetitive tasks, and see patterns that we might miss.
It's all about finding that balance, right? Using the strengths of both.
Right.
Now, one thing that worries people is the idea of AI making these decisions, but nobody knows how, like a black box.
Yeah, it can feel like magic, but people are right to be worried about that. The document talks about this idea of explainable AI.
Okay.
Basically, making sure that even if you're not a tech expert, you can understand how the AI is making its decisions.
So no more AI magic tricks. We want to see how it's done.
Yeah, exactly. When people understand how it works, what data it's using, they're going to trust those decisions more.
It's like, even if you don't agree with a decision, if you know the reasoning behind it, it's easier to accept.
Exactly. And that transparency also helps with the bias problem. When you can see the data and the algorithms, it's easier to spot and hopefully fix any biases that might be there.
So it's about being open, making sure everything's above board.
Exactly. And the document says leaders shouldn't wait for people to demand this transparency.
Uh-huh.
It should be built into AI systems right from the start.
One thing that seemed a little strange at first is the idea of getting employees involved and actually developing the AI.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't that just make things more complicated?
You might think so, but the document argues that this is actually really important. When employees feel like they're part of the process. They understand it better. They're more likely to accept the changes that come with AI.
So instead of people resisting, they might actually become advocates for it.
Right. And it's not just about making people feel better. It's about using their knowledge and experience.
Okay.
Who better to point out potential problems and solutions than the people who are going to be using these systems every day?
That makes sense. It sounds like the document is pushing for a much more collaborative approach to AI.
Yeah, for sure. It's about working together to create a culture where AI is seen as a tool for innovation, not just something to be managed or feared.
This is a much more positive take on AI in the workplace than we usually hear.
I think so too. It's about moving past all the hype and fear and really focusing on how we can use AI responsibly and ethically.
And speaking of ethics, the document doesn't just stop at what happens inside a company. It talks about working with people outside the organization too, right?
That's where things get really interesting. It recognizes that AI is bigger than just one company.
So we're not just talking about keeping our own employees happy. We have to think about the effects AI might have on everyone.
Exactly. Things like data privacy, algorithmic bias, these aren't just problems for the tech industry. They affect all of us.
So who are these external stakeholders we should be talking to?
It's a pretty wide range. Your customers, of course, but also regulators, people who study ethics, advocacy groups, even just the public in general. Anyone who might be affected by how AI is developed and used.
So this is a conversation that needs to happen out in the open, not behind closed doors.
Exactly. The document encourages companies to be upfront about how they use AI, what data they're collecting, and what they're doing to reduce any potential risks.
Be honest about the good, the bad, and maybe even the stuff we don't want to think about.
Yeah, and it's not enough to just put out a statement.
Right.
You have to actually listen to feedback, have real conversations. The document suggests setting up ways for people to share their concerns, ask questions, really be a part of the discussion about how we use AI responsibly.
It's like we're all in this AI revolution together, whether we like it or not.
Absolutely. And that's why the document talks about the importance of working together, not just within one company, but across different industries, sharing what's working and setting ethical standards for everyone.
So it's really a call to action to make sure AI is a positive force in the world.
You got it. The document is saying that this isn't just about helping companies deal with AI. It's about creating a future where AI is good for everybody.
This document really lays out a clear path to, using AI responsibly.
Yeah.
It feels like it's pushing for a really proactive approach and a really ethical one.
It really is. It's like a call to action, especially for leaders,
Okay.
to think beyond just making money and consider how AI is going to affect their employees, their customers, everybody.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but this document does a good job of breaking these big ideas down into smaller steps.
Yeah,
And it doesn't sugarcoat the challenges, but it also doesn't make it seem hopeless.
definitely not. The document makes it clear that AI can be amazing, but only if we approach it the right way.
Right.
It's not about letting tech control us. We get to decide what the future looks like.
It's about taking charge, not letting fear or all the hype control how we use AI.
Right, exactly. This document is giving us the tools to move past all that and start asking the really important questions.
Yeah.
Like, what do we actually want the future with AI to look like?
Yeah.
What are the things that could go wrong that we need to watch out for? And how do we make sure AI is good for everyone, not just a few people?
Yeah. Those are great questions, and I think this document gives us a starting point for finding those answers. It's been really thought-provoking. So, one last thing to think about. If your company really embraced all of this, took these ideas to heart, what would that look like? What's the best possible outcome you can imagine, both for your organization and the world in general?